Hi, my name is Kayla, and I go to the Miami Valley School, and this is for my American Government class, and this is a video speech on Unit 2. This is our second video speech, and we're supposed to talk about what, fascinated us about Unit 2, or we found very interesting. Um, so, I thought in Chapter 10, when it talks about, the Virginia Plan, the New Jersey Plan, and the Great Compromise. I thought it was very interesting. And to start off, I'm going to talk about the Virginia Plan, which the Virginia Plan stated that the national government would have three branches, which is the legislative, executive, and the judicial branch. Uh, it would also create two houses of Congress. Uh, the number of state representatives will be based on size, population, and amount of its contribution to the federal treasury. Uh, and For the Virginia plan, it was stating that the states with larger populations would have more power or representatives compared to the smaller states. So the smaller states didn't like this because they wanted the same amount of representation compared to the bigger states. So they did not like this. So um, they the Virginia plan said that the states with a larger amount of people would have more votes in both houses of Congress. So the smaller states did not want this because they obviously wanted equal representation. So they had the New Jersey plan, which the New Jersey plan stated that Congress would have one house instead of two, and the powers that the Congress one house would have, they would have the power to levy important duties and stamp tax. They would have power to regulate trade among the states and other nations, so they could say yes or no to whatever they wanted to trade. And also, they would have the power to make laws, which that's a very important um, job or duty because making laws is very important. So this helped out the smaller states try to have more power. Um, Also in the New Jersey plan, the systems of government under the Articles of Confederation, which they talked about, I think, in the previous chapter, and by having a national government representing the act of the states, so it would help them. And also in this chapter, it talks about the Great Compromise, which the Great Compromise was um, the House of Representatives should be elected by the people on the amount of population in that state. So the bigger states like California, or California wasn't necessarily there at that time, but the bigger states like Pennsylvania couldn't have more power because they just have more population compared to Rhode Island or New Jersey. When they have a smaller amount of population, they could have the same amount of representation. So the smaller states like this because they wanted the same amount of representation and they wanted it to be equal. Um, Also, the House of Representation should have the power to make all bills of taxations and government spendings, which this is important because they need somebody to know what they're gonna spend the money on and things like that. Um, also, uh, the Congress would be able to call forth the armed forces against state necessary. So if we needed them, they could automatically call them forth. So yeah. So in this chapter, talks about how the Virginia plan was had more power on bigger states, and they had three branches, and they'd have two houses, and the smaller states didn't like this. So then they had the New Jersey plan, which helped favor the smaller states, and they would have one house. And then, so after this, they had the Great Compromise, which compromised both and said by the amount of population that they would have, they would base it off how many representatives, so it would be equal. And that's pretty much about it on just chapter 10 and unit 2. So yeah, thanks.